So slow behind thing. I think there's something going on.
Yeah, keep an eye out for these shotgun lines here.
Then I can do a screenshot.
You might have to give them this consideration. Should be able to.
I could just plug in next slide.
Yeah.
But I'm the only one allowed. The only people that are in the hangout are like that.
Yeah. Okay, so now I have a link that works for them. I'm going to email it out.
I'm in. 574.
For the repeat.
Yeah,
We got two.
that's good. They only did one house. Send me that one.
Which one?
The ones that showing me the
Get out. It's finished.
Yeah, that is right now.
Yeah.
The party's over.
No. Try this one. No. I did send the email to you.
Sorry, it's available right now. That's raw.
Yeah, done here. And we have one viewer. If you go here and click join. Maybe you can't join after I've done live. I think maybe I have, because it's on Google Hangout, maybe they don't let people join after 5. Yeah. Yeah.
The end of the world would be that would be the end of the world. How are we doing on people in yourself?
18.
Okay. Start the top right now.
Yeah. And they're totally hearing everything we're saying.
Hi everybody, we're getting it together here. We had to switch computers. So I could join this as a guest, right?
I don't know if you can join at all.
Or like, you could sit on this
I can just watch it, yeah. You continue?
That's a positive. Okay. Well,
I was have the Google moderator, but that's not really designed for Apple. We just do the play through the lecture now with them.
yeah, and then we move them on to something else.
Yeah, we can, and then once they're in their stuff, we can see if we can do it for the better person now. So I have PowerPoint. And then I can share this screen.
Yeah.
Okay. Now let's go back to oh, that didn't look good. Okay. Did you hear me?
I don't know.
I see some lag in the video. Yeah, I'm looking. Hi, everybody. Yeah,
But you can hear?
but the video itself is very lag. Let's see.
That's fine.
Except for these guys will have one. Could also contribute. So we just found out this morning that changes have been made to that platform, and now those of you logged on via YouTube cannot send chat.
They can leave comments.
But you can leave comments, and you can leave comments how?
On the YouTube page. Just like you can comment.
So you can attach comments to the bottom of the YouTube page, and Stian is going to bring those up so we can at least look at them as you're typing comments in. I see a couple already. Good. Okay. So we do understand that there is a lag in the video and audio. That seems to be beyond our control, but we're here to talk about an important topic. Yeah, it looks like it might even be a minute or so lag, which is not acceptable, but those of you who are out there hearing, you won't know there's a lag, but that's okay. How do I screen share? Screen share. Okay, I'm going to put my slides up on the screen. The entire screen. Yeah. Wow.
Even my phone is situation doesn't do
Okay. See how long this takes to come up on screen. We will deserve the peace of our mind. Okay, welcome to week 6, Online Teacher Communities. I enjoyed reading your comments on the paper that we read together. I guess, like me, you've probably, most of you have not seen that kind of technology where you actually put comments directly onto an article and then read your peers' comments as you're reading. That's sort of a social markup. I'm going to turn this see some of the people that are in this room. Feel more comfortable. Sort of a social markup of content. And I think there's a long future to that, where with our kids, we can get them to all be sitting and talking about documents, highlighting, and adding comments to those. There's a few tools that are like that. For example, Digo is one that's popular, and there's other markup tools as well. I was going to show you this cool link. Maybe I will, just to see if it works. Just to hark back to last week's presentation, or 2 weeks ago. This is a 3D printer that, if you're looking at my screen, actually prints a house. I should put my I should project up here so they can actually see real time. How does that to do? So I'll play it for you. More comfortable for that. I won't play the audio, but actually it's going to mess up your screen because your resolution is low. Oh, okay. That's too bad. So those of you who are in here, you're better off. Yeah, but you'll be seeing slides that are a slide and a half back. But it's good, slides are the slide. So I'm showing a video. Wait for this to come up on your screens. There's just a video of a printer printing a house. So you see it there, doing its thing. Okay. Stop that for now. Just so you see, this stuff is being done, and it's being done on increasingly odd scales. Any search of 3D printing will turn a whole bunch of really interesting results back for those of you interested in that topic. But again, I enjoyed reading the comments and in the shared document. I'm going to come back to that. I also really liked the personal reflections this week. Stian sends me a distilled copy a couple times, periodically, to show, like, sort of, here's some that have come in, here's some more that have come in, and I get a chance to read through them. Really interesting, the online communities that you selected. Some of them, I guess most of them from the list that we provided, but some other ones. A lot of people would share my lesson, which I think is becoming more common. Hot Chalk I hadn't actually looked at before. A couple of great votes for MTAO and STAO, which are professional societies here for math and science in Ontario. One that I thought was pretty curious, Teachers Pay Teachers. I'm not sure what I think about that. If we were more live today, I would like to have a discussion about that one. So can you imagine students pay students? Teachers Pay Teachers is one where you as a teacher could actually post your excellent lesson plan online, and if a teacher loved it, they could have it for $8 or something like that. I don't know if that's a bad idea or a good idea. Time will tell. But then some other interesting ones that are sort of, within another product like Smart or Pinterest. I saw an edu.gov interesting one, Edmodo and OpenCourseWare. So thanks a lot for having a look at that. What I'm going to do is talk just a bit today about online community. Okay, online community is something that I've been working on most of my career. So I started in about 1996, 97, trying to build online communities for teachers. Those of you who haven't been in room 3 before, you'll notice the aircraft engines that are part and parcel of being in this room. They don't last for long. So I hope that this is not affecting the online broadcast. Online community, it's almost an oxymoron, if those of you who are familiar with that English term. It's hard to make community online. And those of you who have spent a lot of time online, you probably have had, even if you're a power user online in some capacity, you probably have had a very limited experience of real community. Okay? There's quite a bit of sharing, and there's quite a bit of remixing, and there's quite a bit of browsing and surfing and, let's say, commenting, right? People want to vote and people want to put their little snarky, words in, but it's not the same as community, and it's not the same as real collective group behavior, okay? So I think it's important to recognize at this point of our discussion that there's a difference between an online space where people can put stuff, get stuff, make comments, and an actual community where you feel like you're a member of something, of a group, and you're doing something, you're sort of stronger for that, okay? And maybe that's not a black and white line. Maybe that's a gray area where you can, you can imagine that there's some things that are kind of more community than others. But the types of things we're talking about here, at least in this week, are I have to say, somewhat futuristic. A lot of us have seen for a lot of years, now maybe 20 years, I've seen this vision where teachers who graduate from a program like this one, and they get out into service, they do tend to be isolated, okay? They will have colleagues, so you will be in a department, and if you're lucky, you'll be in a department with a number of people. You won't be in a small school where you're the only, teacher of a certain topic or grade level. You might have 2 or 3 others that teach your same courses, okay? That's a very small group, and those people tend to be within your community. You'll be close to them, you'll share with them, you'll develop lesson plans together. The principal will probably make you, use the same lesson plan if there's 3 or 4 sections of the course, right? So there is a bit of community there, and in fact, let's say if you're in a science department or a history department, you'll have 3 or 4 or 5 courses across the whole range, and there will be a slightly wider community with your colleagues. But in a larger sense, let's say if you were an English teacher or a Canadian history teacher, having the collegiality of others who teach your topic to your age group, it's attractive to think that there's 50,000 more of you across Ontario doing the same thing in the same course. Slightly different students, always. Slightly different school community, slightly different program, but a lot of the same content. You're all trying to be effective. You're all trying to innovate. You're all trying to engage your students. And at some level, you'd all love to share the things that you find are working. Moreover, you'd all become sort of more energized if you got great ideas or if somebody shared something that you hadn't thought of, right? So there's an intuitive ring to this idea of a community for teachers within a fairly specialized topic area. I am not the only one that's thought of that, okay? Several of us thought about this, again, way back in the late 90s. But as you saw from your homework today, there are quite a few people who have the same big idea. And that's why I think that ultimately it will be an idea that happens. You will end up seeing a community of exchange within your topic area. And today we're going to talk about that, and at least some of my own experience of trying to get that to happen. And I'd love to hear comments from you in the YouTube if you have some thoughts. I did read all of the. I did not read all the comments from all 3 houses. I read all the comments from House 2. I sort of chose randomly in the middle, and then I checked quickly in the comments on the paper for Houses 1 and 3. I just wanted to have a sense of the kind of things that people were putting up there. I love all the comments, and I saw that a lot of you actually did respond to your peers. So I think that's a neat thing, a neat say endorsement for that tool, that people really did feel, let's say, and reading a paper like you had others reading it with you. That's a neat, that's a pretty neat technological feature. John maybe can interrupt me if he ever sees an interesting YouTube comment, because I'm looking only at my slides here. So from the reading, some of you noticed that this was a paper. There was an introduction to a larger literature review. That literature review is available online, and it took a look at all of the current learning communities. If I would have thought that the whole thing would be interesting and relevant to you guys, I would have let you have the whole thing. But I did not feel it was very. I felt that the language was very dry, and the reviews weren't that compelling. It wasn't like there were a bunch of treasures in there. In fact, we pulled some of the treasures out. We grabbed it and took some of the best last year that we could find in there. But I thought that the first 4 or 5 pages were quite good. That's why we kept those. And then we took that as an opportunity to paste them into that format so we could do the comments. You probably noticed some of the academic language in here. Some of you probably felt that was stomach turning. Some of them maybe loved it. But things like online learning communities leverage the affordances of network technologies. There's that word affordances, right? As both the media and the locale for conducting practices that constitute the life of the community. That is not really gobbledygook, but it is pretty close. Affordances of network technologies, you've heard me mention that word again. Here it is again. It means that essentially it's a capability of the technology for a certain kind of interaction. Okay, so an affordance, for example, of that shared markup that we did of the document yesterday. Wow, the internet could do that. Wow, then I can make a tool that lets us all mark up a shared document. So the affordance is the capability of the internet to let us all add notes to a common document. The outcome of that is a tool that lets us actually do that thing. And a lot of people have sort of picked up on the affordances of the internet to do this sort of support for online community. And they mentioned a couple of those synchronous communication tools. I wish that we had a bit better synchronous communication today. We had it last year, where we could all be chatting on the side while I'm doing this. But you can imagine as a teacher, you've got class tomorrow, right? Or you've got class in 45 minutes, and you're trying to solve, you're trying to sort out something that a student gave you. It's a chemistry problem, and it's you're pretty sure the right way to answer it has to do with metals and ions, but you wanted to ask your peers a quick question, right? Nobody in your department has that. You don't want to ask that to, you don't know where to go on the web. Oh, there's this teacher community. I know it's safe. I can go in there. I can ask a question about metals and ions. Boom, 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 and anybody who happens to be on can answer you right then and there. That is professional empowerment. Okay, and it's not like you would need that every single day. But if you had that sort of thing, that's a synchronous, meaning it's got to be online. The little green light would be there. You would see that. You would text chat with them. Including audio and video chat if you needed that as well. You can imagine, well, a lot of people have imagined, but there are ethical problems, and rightfully so. But let's say sharing your classroom with another teacher, where you're going to give some innovative lesson today, and you're going to set up a little webcam in the back of the room or a laptop with its camera on, and share that with another teacher in Athabasca. And they're going to watch you. Or share that with your old pre-service prof that you remember, and you guys stayed in touch, and he wants to show you sharing your classroom to his pre-service course. These are definitely things that people have thought about. There are issues with showing your kids on the web. Those aren't insurmountable, but they are fairly real. So, for example, you'd have to get permission from all your kids. You'd have to have like the lawyers involved, and that stuff again. It is coming, but it's probably going to take a while. Asynchronous tools. So asynchronous, synchronous, right? We mentioned that last week. Asynchronous means I can go in and leave something, and it's not dependent on you being there to see my words to respond to them. So the tool we use for our homework with the markup, that's an asynchronous tool. You can come in Sunday at midnight and look and see who's added some things there. This is almost full. That's kind of good. Okay. Sharing artifacts. I think this is the one that I'm reading through my bulleted list here for those of you who are. This is copied out of that article. I just thought it was nice because it was an authoritative summary, and I could bring this in from our shared experience of reading. This seems to be the one that most people are most enthusiastic about. Share My Lesson was one of the web communities that people acknowledge, and it is a very compelling affordance that every year, every one of us teaches the same course again and again and again. These kids, and that's a criticism of education, by the way. We have this sort of cookie cutter industrial model, and that is a problem. That is not necessarily going to be the way schooling is in the future, but it's still the way it is right now. And kids come in and they're going to get their English, their history, their civics, their math, their science, and those courses have names, and those names are taught year after year. And the teachers, they make changes, they improve them from year to year. But by and large, you have 180,000 science teachers every year navigating the same core courses every year in bio, physics, chemistry, life science, general science. And they're all doing it in silos. They're all doing it completely separated from each other, more or less, right? I got to make my chemistry syllabus based on if you were all here, I'd ask the question: How do you think you make your decisions about that? Where do you get your syllabus? Pretty easy answer. You get it from last year's syllabus. That's what I do. That's what everybody does, pretty much, unless it's a new course. New courses are hard work. They're exciting and they're fun, but they're hard work. Usually we take last year's course, bring it up on a PowerPoint, bring up all the files, think how we want to change it, but it's a lot the same, okay? So the compelling affordance there is, wouldn't it be nice if we could all be sort of poking at common documents, sharing and exchanging the best, upvoting the ones where they all say this one is the best, I want to use that one then, or I'm going to try to float this new one that I made. I made it just for me. That's not as rewarding as if I made it and I share it, and then a lot of other people upvote it, and I'm like, suddenly I'm a celebrity in my own field, right? This is the kind of community of exchange, of remixing, of essentially an economy without necessarily being for money, but they call it an object economy, that I think a lot of people are excited about for teachers. We see you as being fairly high caliber professionals who are going out in an isolating position where you're alone and you are in charge, all right? Teachers are in charge. And we want the teachers to be essentially given as much new power or capability from their internet and from their peers as we can get. So we see that as being a natural kind of progression of the internet. And again, I do think it's coming. I was very encouraged about the links. Those of you who aren't science and math teachers here, but the only two that I know about are the science and math teachers of Ontario. I know there are societies for the other disciplines. I think those are optimistic communities. Let's say STAO, the Science Teachers Association of Ontario. I think it's optimistic that some people chose that one because that's a real society, okay? It's online, yes, but it actually has a meeting as well and a journal. Okay, it's about teaching science in Ontario. And so if they happen to have an online community as well, I think that's probably, I might put my long-term vote there. I think partly because there is that face-to-face component, there is that official society component, that we might see those sort of online, those might be the online pieces that that grow the best. So they mentioned other reference materials. They finally say, oh, and by the way, there are some online communities that have special tools. I'd like their special tools. So things like reflective journals, video journaling, and sort of special purpose tools that these communities have built. Yeah, I think that is going to be the kind of website that people develop over time. I don't know to what extent these things are operational right now, but it's nice to see that mentioned. Okay, so I'm switching slides here for those in this room. You won't probably see a slide switch for a minute or two. I'll just keep my eye on the screen. But just to mention that this sort of participation in online spaces, in online communities, it is increasingly a part of our 21st century society. Sometimes they use the word networks. So like parent networks. Anybody in here a parent? Put your hands in the air. I'm a parent. When you, oh, John's going to be a parent soon. When you become a parent, he might be the next time you see him. Actually, you will be. You're welcomed into an unofficial worldwide network of parents, right? But increasingly, there are online spaces for parents and online communities for parents and exchange. And in fact, as a new parent, and my wife and I, we used online spaces all the time. You go searching, you sign up for stuff, they email you stuff, you post, you comment. So these kind of participations in online, even things as mundane as being a parent, okay? It's beginning to become a sort of almost a normal part of being in anything. And I guess one question I would have had for the group here today is, what kind of online networks are you already a part of? I wouldn't be surprised if the 75 of you, cutting across everybody, there's a pretty interesting array of online communities and online spaces that you are actually already a member of. Maybe a peripheral member, maybe not an active member, maybe sometimes an active member. Generally speaking, you could imagine these as kind of special interest groups. I've done a bit of thinking about this in my own work here, my own research. And my opinion of it is to make these things work, because I have anybody, I can say this safely, anybody who has tried to build an online community, let's say make one that other people will use, has probably become deeply familiar with the experience of disappointment. Nobody comes. You set it all up, you arrange the tables and chairs, you put all the fruit on the thing, and then nobody shows up. I've built probably 10 teacher communities in my life, including a big one for WISE. I really wanted WISE teachers to come and share and build their WISE projects, share their WISE projects with each other. Crickets. That's not pessimistic. I have been pessimistic before in my life. Now I'm beginning to be more realistic. It's easy to show up and grab something and leave. It's easy to quickly surf. It's not easy to make a commitment and be part of something that you're going to come back to. That's actually kind of a big decision, especially in today's world, where everything is fragmented, everything is short, everything is bite-sized. We don't expect to be card-carrying members of anything. We don't have cards in our wallet. We don't have wallets anymore. We don't want to say, this is my, I don't even use bookmarks, right? Oh, this is my bookmark to teacher community. So that's it's a hard thing to try to make happen. But there are still reasons to do it. We just went through a few of them. And I think that, at least in my work I mentioned, I have done some thinking about how to make them work. I think, for example, you need to have some reason for people to do it, something that they get as an advantage for being part of it. That's an important side note, especially since the audio is the only. I'm wondering if, pardon me? Okay. Yeah, I hear you. So for those of you who are having audio issues, I guess one thought I have is that it could be on your end, and so you could try to quit your browser, because sometimes browsers, the cache, the memory cache gets pulled up, and so it slows down. So you could try to quit your browser. You could try turning the video off, since you don't necessarily need to see the slides. But if you quit, hey, oh, you can't. It's YouTube. Yeah. So you could try quitting your browser and coming back in, and that would probably free up some memory, and then that would probably make that better. The other thing is that it might have been the fan that kicks on, and when that comes on, I'll even go closer and try to make try to override it. So I'm sorry about the audio quality, but you can at least read the slides as well. Okay. That's right. If there's ever an interest in seeing the full archive, this will be saved on YouTube. So with all of your free minutes, you can download it and watch it. Okay. So I think there needs to be an incentive to come. There needs to be an actual payoff, right? And we've thought about some of the kinds of payoffs, things that people do online, right? Some people spend hours online at the same site. What are they doing? They're playing games, or they're surfing Facebook, right? They're getting something. They're getting entertainment value. They're getting downtime. I think downtime is that actual thing that people seek, okay? Or they're getting information, or they're getting sympathy. You know, a lot of people, when you see these Facebook posts, somebody sent me once a list of the kind of Facebook posts that people post, right? There's the boastful one. I published 3 papers today. There's the how bad my life is one. Oh, I just woke up and my kids are all sick. You want that. People post those things for psychological reasons. They want to have people sympathize with them. And, you know, those aren't bad kind of posts. Those are just the kind of posts that people make. That's an interesting thing. And especially to people like me who are curious about online community, we're very interested in the kind of things that people are doing online. And I can imagine teachers doing those kind of things too, right? Your teacher is like, oh my God, I have to grade, you know, 180 essays by the day after tomorrow. You would actually say that just so you can get some more teachers to give you a boost, right? So maybe in my online community that I make, I could build a tool that's called Get Teacher Boost Points, where I gripe about something like that, and I get a bunch of teachers that give me a bunch of boost points or something. I don't know, maybe. Point here of this slide is these online communities are popping up. You can call them pop-ups, right? And it seems to be pretty easy to get that to happen. But if you try to actually make one grow, design one, build one, and launch it, and try to get teachers to come to it, it's a very different story. So a little bit about the theoretical parts of online community. There is some theory cited in the paper. They mentioned community of practice. I want to point out, and there was actually there was a paragraph that actually nobody commented on because it was so vague or abstract. But it said that there's a lot of people who see community of practice as a theoretical perspective on online communities, but there are some who disagree. I am one of those people who disagrees. I don't think this particular terminology is correctly applied. Community of practice is a very interesting idea. It actually applies to what your practice would be in schools. So you'll become a teacher in a school. Around you, you will have principals. You will have teacher aides. You will have students. You will have parents. You will have janitorial staff. You will have food services staff. That's a community of practice. Why? Because every one of those people affects what you do in a day. Okay, and that was the definition of community practice that came from Lev and Wenger, who were cited in that paper. It's a very different kind of community of practice than if I was trying to build an online community called Share My Lesson and you guys all come and share lessons. That is not what Lev and Wenger were after, but it's still an interesting theoretical background about community, and it's one that a lot of us who think about communities have touched on. So in my own work on online community, for teachers especially, I've talked about three things that are important. They don't seem too surprising. One of them is critical mass. So you've got to have enough people, at least I'd say 20 or 30, who are coming and who, secondly, have what I call critical identity. So critical identity means they all feel self-identifying as a common sort of beacon to that community. An online course is a great example. Okay, so an online course, you have the requisite critical mass. There's all of you in the course. There is the critical identity. We're all in this course, and then the last one is critical function.
So one of the people in the comments actually told us about a Facebook forum for this course.
Wow. So is that an online community?
People from this class.
I wonder if I'm allowed to have that. No, you're not. You're definitely allowed to have that. But I think if I was to set up a Facebook for this class, I probably could if I made it private. Right? We're going to talk about ethics of internet and risks of internet in, I think it's next week. Well, it's first week to come back to practicum. But so someone pointed out a Facebook community for this course. I think that means that you've just outed yourselves, and now basically everybody in the class should be allowed to join it and make critical comments about the course. The last thing is critical function. Okay, it's not really going to be an online community unless there's something you really need there. It's going to be very hard to make an online community for people who just share enthusiasm. Okay, let's say a sports team, Leafs Nation or something. Right? You can imagine a website for Leafs Nation. You can imagine fans posting comments and commenting on each other's comments. But to really be a community, there's got to be something that online space really does for you. Okay, so for an online course, that's obvious. Everybody's going to come to that online course because they have to, because they're in the course. That's where they're going to get their readings. That's where they're going to do their discussion. That's where they're going to see the lecture. All right, so that's critical function. And this is a very simplified theory, but that's my triangle of criticality that you need for an online community to work. Easy to say, hard to do. There have been a few successful ones. Okay, Tapped In, which is TAP somehow relates to teacher professional development, and in means in service. Okay, that was one that was run in California. It might still be going, but it started in the mid-90s. So it started when the internet was just email, almost before the web. I think they were text-based for a while. And it was the inspiration for a lot of us who realized that teacher communities could be a thing. Math Forum, for those of you from math, again, from the mid-90s, for a long time has been around. And some of its critical functions are, they have a problem of the week. Sounds trivial, problem of the week. There's books and books of math problems. I can go online and get whole websites full of math problems. Teachers love the problem of the week. I don't know why, but they get about 40 million hits on the problem of the week. Teachers sign up for it. They get the problem of the week. And you get discussions about the problem of the week. And they think hard about what the problem of the week is, right? They think about it. And so this is just a thing that I think they stumbled on that. That was one of the things that worked for them. Interactive Math Project, very interesting one. Cognitive Tutor, we mentioned to a few in House 1. So I'm sorry if some of those are from the math and science area. Smart boards. So we've seen smart boards as demos in this class. I think now all three have seen smartboard. Maybe House 2 hasn't. Okay? No. Okay. So you will see smartboards most likely when you go to your practicum placement. At least you'll see them through the corner of your eye as you walk past some room. Probably seen them in some of your courses around here. A lot of schools have smartboards. Why is that? Smartboards are cheaper than people. People cost 100 grand a year, right? And they keep costing. So that's why you'll never see that. The last thing that school boards pay money for is people. Equipment, a computer lab, you can buy a whole computer lab for probably 20,000 bucks. At least the gear. The rooms are also kind of expensive because they have an annual cost. But smartboards are something that schools can buy that it's got the appearance of progress. There are some arguments for them. And the people, especially those of you who are here that have made arguments in your own work for why they're so helpful, there are some positives about smartboards. And it's not just that they can record what you write on them or that they can be touchable. There are some clever ways that you can use them pedagogically, but not very many. And those that there are, they're very hard to share. They're very hard to get out the word about the best practices with smartboards. So one of the ways that Smart, the company Smart, who's in Calgary, has enabled their product to kind of get more traction with teachers. Because a lot of times teachers will get a smartboard in the front of the room. They won't know what to do with it. They'll use it as a projector. They'll turn it on and it'll be their projector. Oh, and I can touch my projector. So I don't have to click my mouse to advance my PowerPoint. I just touch. They're not sure how to use that well. So Smart has kind of taken matters into its own hands, and they've created a community of teachers across all the disciplines that share the different approaches that they felt are successful. And they also have a face-to-face workshop every year for Smart teachers that are really excited about it. And there are teachers out there that swear up and down that this is transforming their classroom. I'm not quite so convinced, but again, it's not just black and white. There's a spectrum, and I am pretty sure that smartboards have some new capabilities. The online community of teachers is going to try to get that figured out over time. So critical function, watching my time. Some of the critical functions that we can imagine here: sharing and exchange, improving lesson plans and assessments. Obviously, if I'm a faculty member at some high school and I have an interest in kind of getting the best and sharing mine, I believe that could be a critical function in an online community. I think advice and strategizing is very helpful. I know there are unions for teachers to protect you, but there's often situations where teachers might be able to trust even somebody at arm's length. Like, I want to ask another teacher about this, but I don't want to ask somebody in my board. Okay? I want to ask somebody almost safely anonymous to me that what's their opinion about this new policy where I have to work after school for 3 days a week or something that's come up, right? And your union obviously would be another place you can go. I think networking and collaboration. How about job search? Right? Job search is a very impenetrable thing. You're out there, you're trying to find a job. Where do you go out? I can go knock on the door of the boards. There might be ways that these online communities can help with that. So just to close this off, getting real exchange to happen, why is it so difficult? Why are humans so human? You say the word human nature, everybody nods their head. Well, what does that actually mean? People are very rigid in general. They don't make changes quickly, and there are some evolutionary reasons why that's true. Okay, if we suddenly changed our personality every day and we could quickly rejig everything, there's some downsides that would follow from that very quickly. So it's to our advantage to have a sort of caution and to change a bit slowly, but it's a very true thing, especially the older you get. You get set in your ways, you do things, you trust the way that you can do them, and it's actually kind of hard to learn new things and to try new things. That does not mean you should not try. I'm here trying this course as a new thing just because I wanted to break out and try it differently. And it's not always successful the first time, right? So teachers need to be able to take risks, and yet it's a profession where risks do not always pay off. So what pays off if you're a teacher is making sure your students are kind of well under control. The classroom is managed. They're not confused. They're making progress, right? So risking any kind of practice change as a teacher is risking disrupting that very essential recipe for success. So new teachers, they don't have a lot to lose because they haven't really set their practices or their ways. But teachers that are actually out there doing it, and they've been doing it for years, they're going to be very cautious about, oh, I'm going to try this new technology thing. And so basically one of the main reasons why it's so hard for people to sort of introduce a new thing, like I'm now a member of this community and I'm now sharing my lesson plans, getting lesson plans for that, is because of this human nature of getting set in our practices and getting a routine. It's not something, for example, that pre-service teaching. So I wouldn't be surprised if any of you heard much about online communities from your other OISE courses. Anybody here? No. The reason is it's not really safe for us to do that. For me, as a teacher educator, to say to you that you're going to be able to use this and that it's going to be a meaningful part of your career, there's some risk. There's some risk there from my part. I'm not sure this is going to be there for you, and I'm not sure that it will make a positive benefit to your career. I have an intuition that it will, and for those of you who did your homework and went out and joined them, you probably saw some interesting things there, right? But in essence, it's taking a long time to get these kind of things going. It's not like the ministry can all of a sudden say, this is going to be a new part of teaching, and then OISE can say, we're going to route our pre-service teachers into that and get them all doing that. Even those of us who would feel that that would be a valuable thing, it would take a lot of work to make that actually happen and happen well. So what's my next slide, I'll sort of get to what's actually happening. But the other thing that's important to mention here is critical mass. It's not like there's lots of people up here making any exchange community happen. For those of you who went to share my lesson, you probably saw some people trying to share lessons, but it wasn't thousands of people. And the lessons that were there probably weren't, it was confusing how to decide where the best ones were. So essentially we need to get the numbers up. If you got the numbers up, I say here, if people came, then you would build it, right? It's a movie reference for those of you. So if you got the numbers up, you would be able to probably see a lot more action happening and a lot more evolution. So until then, I'm watching the slides here change a minute or two later. So let all the flowers bloom. This is a euphemism for if you can't make one and by design that people are going to come to, let all these people, that all these sort of dozens that we put in our list, they're all going to pop up. And as a teacher, what you can do is basically find your own, find one that makes sense to you, find one that's exciting to you. If it's part of a professional society, join that and then say, okay, I'm going to go try to go be a front runner in their online community. I'm going to go try to be one of these burned pancakes that try to be the ones to use it, right? That's what youth and being new to the profession bring that opportunity. I'm gonna try things out. So I think that is my advice on how you could, as a new teacher, try to bring these online communities into your practice, and then as well, show your peers, show your colleagues at the school, show your friends, and try to be as active as you can without burning yourself. The last point I'm going to make, and then we're going to transition, is as a teacher, you can also have your class be a community. Okay, you can think of your class as an online community. because that is one of the things that technology is now bringing into our world. So teachers are traditionally broadcasting their message to students who are all sitting there in parallel and receiving the message. But increasingly with technology, we can put them into a wiki, right? We can get them into a Facebook page. We can have them blogging to their peers. And they start using these kind of community functions as a classroom. Or let's say you have 4 sections of a class. You could even do it across all the sections. Suddenly you have 100 kids in an online community. Okay? So again, that is critical mass, critical function, and critical identity. That obviously that has clear implications for online, but even in our face-to-face courses, teachers like me at least are starting to bring online spaces that unify their kids into a collection and a community, try their best to engage them with their peers, sharing, exchanging, co-creating to modify the experience and add this kind of social layer. I have, in my own work, been advancing a kind of a knowledge community approach where I try to treat the classroom as a knowledge community that shares its knowledge with each other. If you're interested in that theoretically, I have papers that I can send you. There's a few others who have researched that as well. There are challenges to teaching that way. If you're in any discipline that needs to have coverage of content, it's harder when you're trying to get your students to become a community that shares and advances its own work. It's harder to cover the expectations. It's also a harder way to teach. You've got a lot of this grouping and shared work to do, but it can be very rewarding, and I think it can be rewarding for the students. Assessing progress is another issue. So yeah, as I mentioned, I have a model. This model was used to inform some of the examples that I've showed you of my work, like the kids doing the biology investigations. Those of you who are here can't see that, but it's the picture of where they're all looking at the bugs in the walls. So to make that curriculum, we used the model that my group has come up with. So I'm going to close there, but just to say, thinking about a community and thinking about online community is part of technology for education. Okay, it's part of being a teacher. There's the model. Now it's like I'm watching all this screens pop up. It's part of teaching with technology. It's part of being a teacher in a technology community. And I'm sure that it's going to be part of your life. I'm not exactly sure how. But let me stop there, and I can ask the people in this room, are there any questions or comments that you want to make that maybe the rest of the group out there could benefit from, since you're the here face-to-face group? Yeah, I'll repeat the question. He's asking, do I see Facebook groups as being a form of online community? Again, I think because of my jaded past of trying to create communities and nobody's come, I'm very cautious about saying what is community. I think a Facebook group is a Facebook group. Okay, I'm in a Facebook group right now for my neighborhood who's we're actually fighting the Toronto District School Board for trying to change our public school and send our kids to another one, right? So it's very active, and I actually feel like that's kind of an online community. Part of it is because it reflects a real community that's underneath, a face-to-face community where we're all so busy that we couldn't actually get together. We got together once at a coffee shop, but the answer to your question of whether the Facebook group could be an online community, it's actually a great vehicle for online community because it has links, it has discussions, it has comments, it has members, you know, it has there's a lot of capability to coordinate stuff. That's right. If people have their own Facebook accounts, although they have to come to that page. And if I could tell you the number of groups that I've joined that I basically never go to, because I'm not sure why I don't go. It's some of that human nature stuff. I got another comment there. So it's probably the right direction is to use the Facebook because people all go to Facebook. Although now it's Yik-Yak, I don't know. Okay, that's going to change too, right? One day Facebook too will go down. We will all talk. It'll be. It's becoming a blogosphere now. It's becoming a reblog mechanism. Those of us who just read political infographics and send them, and we're all just kind of rebroadcasting these waves of internet sites. So it's a way for a lot of us in our friend circles to kind of keep posting. But who knows? Right. So Yik-Yak, things are coming up, Snapchat, that will start to push new functionality. I mean, it's an interesting question. So here's a comment. The history course at OISE has a type of online community. Each student was supposed to post the lesson plan they created to the class Pepper so that we can all exchange lessons for our upcoming practicums. Yeah. So that's, anyone here in that class? Who's the prof? John Myers. Oh, no. Yeah, I'm trying to think. I know, I want to take that class. Is he funnier than me? Yes. I could be funny too. I think that, so that is the kind of thing where, like, so now we want to see, right? Are you going to actually use your friends? Awesome. Yeah, that's the thing, right? Is that this is why people are arguing. These are not trivial constructions. Share my lesson, or teachers pay teachers. Teachers know how much work goes into making a good lesson plan with assessments, right? With rubrics. That's not cheap labor. That's real intellectual stuff, and that should be economical. Like that's why they call it an object economy. That's worth something. Okay, people want that, and other teachers will want that. So it'll be interesting to hear if that actually works for you. I know sometimes in practicum it's not as easy to whip out a new lesson, especially if the associate teacher has their own kind of art. But sharing that with the associate teacher and saying, hey, look what I would like to try. It'd be interesting to get that discussion going. Another question? That's a great idea. Yeah, she's got a great idea, and this is not. This is something I've thought of. I've even talked to OISE people about this. You guys build friendships here. You build cohorts here. You build connections here, and then you're going to get cast into the wind, right? And shouldn't it be interesting to maybe stay in touch with each other and keep those connections that exist, maybe as a group or as a cohort? So she mentioned that there are already existing Pepper groups for a lot of the options, a lot of the subgroups here in the B.Ed, that those would go out and they would persist. And maybe OISE could do something like say, you know, we're going to keep those running, and we're going to watch the kind of things that you talk about mature. You know, a subset of you will actually find yourselves in teaching jobs. I would guess half, maybe more than half, real higher grade. A lot of you doing long-term supply, but to the extent that people are actually finding employment, then having those things serve that role. I had a PhD student who did one of those for principals. It turns out principals are not the enemy. Yeah, that was funny. That was funny. Okay. I should stand up. If I stood up, then I'd be a stand-up. Okay. Principals are beleaguered, and they're not unionized in Ontario. There is no union that covers principals. So the teachers are running right over them, right, constantly. And so what her research was about was an online community for principals. There's literally no union rep that a principal can go to. There's no, they're so alone, and there's only one of them in a school, right? They don't even have, they have their assistant principal who kind of wants their job, right? So it's not a great upset. So she actually, you know what, she did this, exactly what you're saying. In her principal training, about 6 or 8 of them had gone through together, and then they all went out and they all got some level of assistant or real principal job, and they all stayed in touch. And they created an email circle, and the email circle went forward for like 5 or 6 years. And then she came back to Boise, did her PhD, and I was her supervisor. She said, I want to study that, because that's actually working. And we're sharing, it's amazing the kind of stuff they had to work out, where I can't even imagine if you were on your own trying to do that. So it's a good idea, and maybe you could even take that. So when I said let all the flowers bloom, you know, you might be able to go to your Pepper administrator and say, could we keep our group running? And if they can't, then you can just get everybody's email list, create a Facebook group. I think that's the kind of thing that's going to work. Any more comments on YouTube?
There's another comment about the North View cohort for the community saying all of the similar things. It's been very helpful in the time that you've either collected if you.
Yeah, I really would like this class. I mean, one of the visions I had for this class, it's hard when the class itself is not going to be offered again. But if we're building these resources, all of these kind of technology presentations and the wiki of resources that we'd like to put together, that when you guys graduated, you could still come back to that and you'd still have access to all that stuff. And we have lesson plans that we're building, a lot of which you won't be able to run right off the bat because you won't necessarily have all the computers or that kind of time. So it would be nice if you felt like, you know, you could come back to this and stay part of this cohort as well. So I think that is a vision. I'd love to have, I've talked to them at OISE about a master's program where it was for in-service teachers. So it said, only when you get out into the working world, then we want you to do a master's degree, and we want you to do it researching your own practice and reflecting on your own practice in kind of an action research. And everybody loves that idea. That's not, nobody's ever said bad idea to me about that. But there would be one where it really would make sense to have a cohort of people out there kind of in touch with each other, sharing their experiences. And, who knows, we might get that together and be emailing you about it one day. So let's see, the next item on our agenda is, next item on our agenda spreadsheets. We're letting the latency of the YouTube video catch up. Okay. We want to go to back to our wiki page. Stay with me on this window if you can out there at home so you can hear what I'm saying. But just in case if you clobber your YouTube, like I'd like you to open another window so you can keep at least hearing the audio. So I can kind of give you some instructions of what we're going to do next. If you go to the week 6 page, it might be 7 because we changed, we took a week off, but yeah, right now it's called week 6, Online Teacher Communities. So in the very top of that page, you'll see House 1, House 2, House 3. And what we've done is we're making, we want you to do a couple things, right? We want you to have access to your personal reflection that you did for homework. Remember where you found one community, you went in and you tried your best to kind of participate in it. And I read a bunch of those, probably most of those. really interesting, and thank you again for the good reflections. We want you now to go into your house. We thought about doing this at the SIG level, but we actually think that there's enough of these that you would want to see from other SIGs in your house that we don't want to keep them kind of in a silo of the houses, so of the SIGs. So we want you to go to your house, 1, 2, 3, 4, and want you to add your community that you reviewed. Now, a lot of you reviewed Share My Lesson, so we don't want a new row. We don't want a bunch of Share My Lessons in there, okay? So if somebody has already added Share My Lesson, we want you to just kind of add your comments to it on the right. So you'll see over on the right, you have peer review A, B, C, D, E, F, G. That's columns G through H. After people have put their community in there, we want them to make some comments on at least 2 of the other ones. Now, very quickly, before you go editing, if you see highlights on a cell in Google Docs, so these are called Google spreadsheets, and you'll see already I'm looking at house 1, I see 9 people, 10 people, they're coming in, right? If you see a highlight on a cell, it means somebody is busy typing into that cell, and if you also select that cell, you'll kill their work. So please, when you're ready to edit, if you're going to add a new row, just make sure you go down to and put your name first so people see that you've kind of signed up for that. I see people doing that very nicely here. And then add your online community, and then fill in columns D through F on that, or D through F, where you're just going to sort of say which community you joined, what it is, and what it is about that community that you thought was successful. And then I want you to go to 2 other ones, okay, at least 2. Spend some time on this. Going in and exploring them, you don't necessarily have to join if it asks you to join, but go in and explore and try to learn something about one that you did not do for your homework, and add a few comments in the table in those columns to the right, G through M, okay? Sort of put your name and say, you know, I'm Allison and I've said this. Okay, so that's what we're going to do for the next, let's say 30 minutes, okay? I wanted to take a bit of time on that. That'd take us right up to about 11:15, and then we want to take a break after that. So you can take, because a lot of you are at home, you can take a break now and come back and do it in 15 minutes, or you can take your break when you're done. But spend a bit of time filling in the table, putting your comments in, and then we all want to come back to this same URL at 11 o'clock, okay? And that is the end of the first part. So thanks. I know it's kind of tiring to sit and listen online. Hopefully you're all enjoying coffee or your home environment. The people here are enjoying each other, and we'll see you in about 45 minutes. Okay, hi everybody. I'm back very briefly. We just heard a complaint that Google is flaking on us again. We're not sure about Google. It's always been so trustworthy, but it says it's logging people out when they try to make edits. It's not exactly clear what is happening on all those cases, but what we can suggest is that you just sort of, if it's happening to you a lot, just kind of walk away and take your quick break now. It might be that everybody literally showed up at the same page at the same time. We were pretty sure that 25 people in a house could safely edit a Google spreadsheet. We've done it before. But if this is a big problem, just kind of keep trying and you'll see it should work in the end. So sorry about that. So group chat's not happening. So we haven't added any YouTube. Okay. Hi everybody. Welcome back. Yeah, it really did throw us for a loop not having our chat here with the YouTube broadcast. But so we have no way to get quick feedback from you except for comments on the YouTube channel. Still, we're surviving, and we saw good contributions to the Google Docs, the spreadsheets. There were a few people who had trouble and got kicked out. Typically, what happened is they'd come back in and they'd finally get in. So hopefully, you were all able to get in. If it didn't, work on the page, to kill that page and start a new page and go in. Essentially, Google has gone from being very reliable to questionable this year. We're not sure what's happening, if it's something the company is doing, or if it's maybe a lot more people are using it, or it's confusing. It makes me almost feel like writing to somebody at Google, which I've never done before. Anyway, we are now going to move into the last part of the day's session. So you see that online synchronous is a real trick, right? I'm right now having faith that there's this, like I'm broadcasting on the radio almost, that there's this live audience out there listening. And I do appreciate your being there. I'm interested in watching the next step, which is Etherpad. Etherpad is something that's interesting because, and by the way, it's a technology that has performed very well. We're actually happy with Etherpad. It has been the kind of thing we've used all year for the last 5 weeks, and successfully, but also sitting right next to the person we're Etherpadding with, when in fact that's not the strength of the tool. The strength of the tool is synchronous editing, but when you're not in the same space. So now we're going to try it as it's being used, and I'm going to screencast so you see. Why am I seeing myself right there? That's a YouTube one. Share my screen. Windows. Okay. So this is an Etherpad. If you go to the wiki on week 6, online communities, and you see the SIG discussion pads there underneath. Oh wait, first thing we're going to do, forgot about Poll Everywhere. What's that? You want to open the window? Let's do Poll Everywhere. I forgot one. Why am I saving this? So Skian made a poll. We wanted to try Poll Everywhere because it's another tool that kind of does work. Seems like it works well, and we thought we could at least give it a quick whirl after our house pads. So we're going to go into the SIG Etherpads. We'll do that in just a second. If you go to Poll Everywhere, which is also on that same page, right underneath the houses, you see a link that says "Go to Poll Everywhere," and when they go, what are they going to click on?
Then I'm not going to be able to push them
off. Okay, so they go there. You go to that page, and then we're going to send you. Yeah. Now. So we're trying to now, you're looking at our screen when we're actually sending you a poll. Okay. So you should see something like this on your screen Why would they see this on their screen?
Because it gets pushed to their record other than afterwards.
So they go to Scan Huckliff?
Well, that's the link that was on the report.
Okay, so you're going to this, that's why you're seeing it, because you're going to this Scan Huckliff 152, and you're going to see this.
I'll go straight there. They don't have to type it in.
You'll see this poll here. And we just wanted to get a sense, a couple things, just to see how the tool worked. So you'll see one item that says, how likely will you be to participate in an online community of your peers? I'm going to, I want to click I doubt it, but I'm going to say very likely I will try it. We're going to give people a little while to put these in. How do we see the, we have to go back to the picture.
Yeah.
Okay, so we, a lot of people say very likely. Some people very, oh, absolutely. This could top out of 40.
Yeah, it's actually probably.
So you're looking on my screen now. Those of you who have the YouTube up can see the poll results coming in. We're not sure if we might be limited to the how many results we're allowed to receive. We got 39 so far. Okay, so then we push another one. This is going to like push their screen again. Okay, so now we're going to, I think we get the sense that we're about evenly split there. Now we're going to send another poll. So if you go back to that same URL, you could click it again on the wiki if you want. You'll, okay, so staying on the same URL, you should now see this page. I see a few of you, yes, you do. So it's kind of asking us what we think are the most important functions for online communities. Sharing lesson plans, discussing new approaches, reflecting about how students learn, dealing with politics, policies, parent issues, or staying in touch with friends, supporting each other. I know they're all important. We just get to pick one. So we'll see what we think. I'm gonna choose this one. Surprisingly. Okay, so I chose one. We'll go back and sort of see what the sharing lesson plans. 25.
I wonder if like every time someone you post, it cuts off one because they get them back.
Yeah, because that's 18, 35, 40. Okay, yeah. So apparently we are limited to 40 responses for our free poll, but it's neat to see this in real time. Those of you who are looking at my screen now see at least the first 40 of us that answered. 17 of us thought sharing lesson plans. Were evenly divided about talking about new approaches and reflecting on how students learn. I'm really interested that how students learn got so many votes. It turns out to be perhaps one of the most important things that teachers can learn about is how their students learn. That's that pedagogical content knowledge. So that you think that that could be a good topic for online communities is pretty great. And then 5 of us said staying in touch with friends and supporting each other. So that's neat, and it's something we wanted to try just to see how well we could get a tap on the participants out there. Now let's go back to the week 6 page. Let's do another copy. That's okay. And we'll go to the SIG discussion pads. There you see house 1, 2, and 3 SIGs. I'll choose let's see, I'll choose music, house 2, and week 6. SIG discussion pad. So if you're following me, I'm just clicking, I'm pretending I'm in the music SIG. I noticed that some of the SIGs have already been working on their Etherpads, which is okay. But again, as we said, the Etherpad is actually well suited for this. And I want to show you just 2 things. First of all, the top right corner where you see the pink icon with the number of people, it shows you who's logged in. If you want your name to show up, you could just go and so my name right now is Stian. I could change it to Jim because I happen to be Jim right now on Stian's computer. And I changed it, closed it, and so now if I type something on the pad, it says it shows that that it was Jim that typed it. So for those of you who are putting everything in as null, if you like being null, that's okay. It's anonymous, but you can make your name. The other one that I just wanted to show you that I think could be very helpful for this activity is the chat. So if you look at the bottom right hand of my screen, you see the chat window down there. And because you're not in the same group, you might find that, and it's a little bit weird to be typing texts to each other while you're typing text in a window about typing text. But there might be reasons or ways that you could talk to each other offline that, it's kind of online but offline. It's not in your text document that you're creating. So I just wanted to point out that you can chat with your SIG group. I think this is an important discussion. It's going to pull from that table that you made, okay, that you just did in your house, and you all reviewed examples. So I would love for you to say, okay, now that I've been, rifling through all of the communities that people in my house said were good, I'm now going to go with my SIG group, and I'm going to think about what I'm teaching and whether teachers in my discipline and my age group could benefit from this, and let's talk about how. So let's do this for about 20 minutes. And I'm guessing that these items will become quite well populated, so you might want to put them in bold like I'm doing so you don't lose them in the lengthy text that starts blooming here. And then when we're done, we're going to come back and have a quick look at what's there, and then we'll go into our design groups. So let's all get back together. Let's work online quietly for about 20 minutes. Come back at 11:35, and then we'll go into design mode, group design mode. Okay. If we, that's good. 11:35. Yeah, right. Okay. Hello, everybody. We're back for one more radio broadcast live here from the fabulous OISE studios in Lecture Hall 3 of the Education Commons. The Etherpads were fantastic. They're really interesting. I think you guys might have communicated better distributed than you do when you're face to face. I think that, and we're also basically loving that tool. It just doesn't seem to break, and we have had no email complaints about it. So thank you for thinking so much about that. I think it's safe to say teacher online community, peer networks, professional networks are going to be an important thing going forward in your careers. I trust that you'll at least remember this theme this week. And funny, I need to have an audience to talk to. It's so hard to be just in front of a screen, so I'd rather talk to the people in this room. I trust that you will remember this and you will try your best to find ways to connect with peers when you're out there. Maybe starting at home. Start with your school, start with your teachers there. But another way to go is to your OISE peers that was pointed out. There may be some friends and colleagues that you're staying in touch with. I think the professional society is an obvious attractor, finding ways to plug in meaningfully for that. Okay, the last thing we want to do today, for sort of the next 20 minutes, is to go back to our design teams, and now we're going to be working virtually again. So we'll probably, what we want to do is get in touch by email with your design partner. If you need to exchange emails, you can do that on your Etherpad page. So if you go back to your Etherpad page and say, hey, what was your email again? Or if you want to use the Etherpad page at the bottom to have a chat or an online discussion, you can do that as well right there. So we want you to think about your design project. I've been reading slowly, I confess. I had a very busy week last week around here with a lot of stuff. But I really did appreciate the progress on the design pages that you guys made, especially in the last few days coming up to the 15th. It was noticeable. We saw a ton of wiki activity, and I definitely appreciate the effort that went into getting those things to a place where I could read it. I'm hoping the peer review discussions you had right at the end on the 8th were helpful. And don't forget that we're going to do an actual official peer review of the lesson plans when we come back. So you're actually going to read each other's wiki pages and make some comments on those wiki pages. Don't worry about doing that or how to do that now. Then go ahead and go off to your practicum, and when you come back, we'll send an email about how to do that, and we'll talk about that in the first class when we return. Okay, there won't be any homework between now and when you return. What we want you to do now, though, is to just go back to your design team and think about some of the things that you saw in the spaces where you looked today and over homework, some of the online community spaces, and thinking about collective sort of getting peers together in an online social way, just in case, and hopefully there might be some ways that you can imagine that connecting to your lesson design. But if not, to just go ahead and spend a few more minutes working with your partner to get as much of that lesson design kind of shaped up as you can. I am still reading them, but it's not going to change, the reading. I have them PDF, so I had Skian go through on the 15th and great PDFs of everything. But if you really feel like you made some major change, you want me to have a look at that one, send me an email and I'll get him to read PDF the new one. But I think basically I get the ideas from what I'm reading. What you can expect to get from me in the next, I guess probably the next week, over the next week to 2 weeks, you'll be out of practicum. But I'll be sending, no, it won't even be up email. It'll be, Skian will be pasting a as they become ready, your feedback into your personal wiki pages. And then I guess we can send an email. When we do that, you'll get an email that says, go check there. Jim pasted some comments about your design. Okay, so that'll be your kind of some input from me about your design as best I can do so many of these. But it's busy time for all of us. I know it's busy times for you. Should we check the YouTube? Do I have YouTube open too? I do. I just want to make sure there's no comments coming in. Oh, here's, nope. Let's go all the way to, oh, these are, it's new, first and last. Okay, so if you had any comments now, you can stick them in the YouTube and I will see them. So after this, I think we're going to fade into the end of class. So this has been our online experience together. The people in this room have been online and face-to-face. For those of you who are here, I can stick around after 12 if you want to chat about your lesson designs or anything like that. For those of you online, please feel free to email me any questions or Stian. Stian might be harder to get in response. He's going to be less available in the next 5 weeks, but we will, between the two of us, definitely respond. And I just want to say good luck in the practicum. It should be fun. You've been looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to hearing your response when you come back. I'm going to ask you about your technology that you happen to see, any innovation that you happen to see. There's a whole bunch of experience out there in your associate teachers that you will be able to draw upon. And I wish everything the best. Hope it goes well. Stay in touch. Okay. See you in 5 weeks. And now off to design. Oh, yeah. Pause or start. Why don't you leave it on just in case YouTube comments?